this is Tracking the Lone Wolf. It's based on my book, Tracking the Lone Wolf, the Sigma at work, at home, and at play. Today on Tracking the Lone Wolf, critical thinking. Tracking the Lone Wolf is a twice-monthly show that's got a lot of fascinating information that's vital to just about everyone. So I suggest you like this video and subscribe to the channel. The book is available in paperback and for Kindle and in audiobook format from Audible and other platforms. I am a public speaker, and you can learn more about that at the website trackingthelonewolf.com. So, critical thinking. This is another one of the skill sets which is covered in the book, and it's so crucial to all the theaters of life, the professional, the familial, and the social, at work, at home, and at play. Critical thinking is right in line with the other skill sets, including emotional intelligence, people reading, and clear communication skills. One has to know who they're talking to and how to speak to them, but first they have to know what to say, and that's where critical thinking comes in. We talked about active listening on this show, Tracking the Lone Wolf, and in the book, Tracking the Lone Wolf, and it's part and parcel of this skill set. Keep in mind that critical thinking does not mean being critical. It does not mean being judgmental of everything that you see, just in the very same way that in the Myers-Briggs type indicator, judgmental does not mean to judge, it means to seek a closed-ended resolution. Well, in this case, to be critical does not mean to be judgmental, it means to be analytical. So critical thinking is analytical thinking. It includes a lot of the skill sets we've looked at, for example, active listening. There's a parallel between active listening and critical thinking. They both require focus on the information. They both require a diligent processing of the information internally. For example, repeating it to yourself. They both require verbalization of the same information so that others know that you know. Both require analysis, preponderance of information to find a presumption upon which one can base a strategy for a remedy and then implement that strategy. So, while active listening is a part of critical thinking, really critical thinking is in the macro what active listening is in the micro. There is a corollary between the two. Now, critical thinking requires a bit more, though, because this often happens in a time of crisis. So critical thinking requires experience enough to draw upon in order to make a timely decision. It requires reflection, but still timely action. Critical thinking is really about conflict resolution. That is the essence of critical thinking. Now let's look at it in the three theaters of life. In the professional theater at work, well, conflicts come up all the time between management and a client, between coworkers, between managers. Conflict is almost ever present, and it is the job of the manager, as we know, to avoid conflict and maintain the stasis, maintain the status quo, and that's done by conflict resolution. How do you do that? You actively listen to both sides. You process the needs of both sides. Assuming you are you are in the position of being an intermediary, you might be on one side or the other of a conflict. If so, employ these tactics. Actively listen. Have empathy for the needs of the other person. Verbalize their needs to demonstrate your understanding. Propose a hypothesis which can suggest a remedy. The remedy suggests a protocol. Implement the protocol. It's less mysterious than it seems. The problem is most people just don't go through these steps. But in the workplace, it often is necessary. Conflict in the workplace reduces profit, to put it plainly. It reduces productivity. Reduced productivity creates reduced profit. Increased productivity creates increased profit. So if you have greater critical thinking skills, and if you can have your workforce incorporate greater critical thinking skills, they will avoid conflict. Therefore, they will increase productivity and increase profit. Now, in the familial theater at home, conflict arises even more. If you have children, you know this. Kids fight with each other. They fight with their parents. Parents fight with each other. Conflict management is an ever-present challenge to anyone in the home, to everyone in the home. That's why this is so important for children to understand these concepts, for kids to get it, because teenagers are so prone to conflict due to their ignorance and lack of experience, but also balanced with their growing ambitions. The greater they know themselves and they understand the nature of these conflicts, the easier they will be to resolve. But no matter where you are in that balance, in the familial theater is where conflict is the most crucial and the most common. So conflict resolution is the most required, and that requires critical thinking. Sociologically, in the social theater, at play, there'll be fewer conflicts, but they will come up. Conflict resolution may be necessary from time to time because there are differing personalities in any social circle and they may conflict. If that happens, critical thinking is the best way to go about resolving that or any conflict. When dating as well, you must use critical thinking when dating. It's one of those skill sets that is so crucial in the romantic field because you have to understand the desires of the other person, their wants and their needs, and they have to understand yours. And conflicts will come up in romantic relationships, and the only romantic relationships which survive are those which survive these conflicts. Let's talk about the alpha, or rather the sigma. We always bring it back to the lone wolf. So applying it to the lone wolf, we see that critical thinking, when you're dealing with the lone wolf, is really crucial because the lone wolf is often misunderstood. The sigma is a misunderstood personality type by the others. So if you really want to understand this person, critical thought is a must. You have to actively listen. You have to seek to understand and verbalize, and if they are in conflict, that is a conflict you want to resolve because this is a valuable member of your workforce, and you want to keep the alpha, you want to keep the sigma around. And the sigma has flexibility you don't have. In the workplace, you can't leave your job, you're the manager, but the sigma can find somewhere else to go. The sigma always has a flexibility that the alpha and others don't have, which means when dealing with the sigma, you have to respect that. Now, to you sigmas out there, to you lone wolves, applying it, by the lone wolf to others, you are naturally a critical thinker. This goes along with perception and judgment. You are always critically thinking. A lot of people take you for being critical, but you're just being analytical. Understand the difference and help them to understand the difference too, because that's one way in which you are being misunderstood, and that's common for the sigma. But critical thinking is vital in any of the three theaters, and that's a skill that the Sigma is naturally attuned to. However, it's not natural for anyone. You have to be disciplined. Like any of the skill sets, you must be disciplined in applying them. The lone wolf especially, because of the other disadvantages the lone wolf faces in society. We have enough challenges. We need every advantage we can get. We don't have the advantages of the alpha, the security of the system. We have the insecurity of the process. So we need to think critically, to use our analytical skills, because those are our survival skills. And that brings us to the conclusion of our analysis of critical thinking. You can read a lot more about it in the book, Tracking the Lone Wolf, The Sigma at Work, at Home, and at Play. It's available in paperback and for Kindle, and in audiobook format from Audible and other platforms. Visit the website, trackingthelonewolf.com. I'm Fletcher Roden. Thank you for watching. We'll see you again.